No more taxpayer-funded luxury cars for people with constipation or tennis elbow. Today, it was announced people who get a brand new sports car as part of the farcical motability scheme will no longer be able to get the following vehicles: Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Lexus, Audi, Alfa Romeo. Good, OK? Good. Now, for people who don't know what the motability scheme is, well, it lets people receiving enhanced personal independent payments lease brand new cars at a low price. The whole thing has become an absolute racket. Now, I want to make something very clear straight away. There are so many disabled people out there who need help, who need benefits and who need a car. And I'm not talking about you. But we have got a record 3.74 million people claiming PIP. Well, what does that mean? Well, of course, it means record numbers of motability vehicles. The whole thing cost the taxpayer between 2 and 4 billion quid last year. People are getting swanky new cars that most hard-working people can't afford. For some of these conditions, look at this. Constipation, 20 people. Tennis elbow, 40 people. Failure to thrive. So what is that? What is that? 10 people. Alcohol and drug misuse, 990 people. Now, what could go wrong there? I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you what, let's have a little look at that wino and that smackhead. Give them a car. Give them a car. 1 in 5 new cars on Britain's roads is a motability vehicle. I mean, how do you explain that? Other than if loads of people who don't really need one are getting one. And it's a sweet deal for people on the take. It covers the car, the insurance, the breakdown cover and the maintenance. But it doesn't stop there. It'll also pay for your driving lessons. Drivers with a provisional licence who are so anxious that they need the taxpayer to give them money can get 40 hours of free driving lessons. That's roughly 1,200 quid. I mean, the person who the car is for doesn't actually have to be the registered driver. Now, some cases for obvious reasons, I understand that. But this is just wide open to abuse, isn't it? Now, people will say blocking them from getting a luxury sports car is cruel. Well, I say nobody has a human right to drive a Merc. And all of a sudden, when a Skoda is the only car on the menu, we're going to see a lot fewer rude boys claiming PIP so the taxpayer can fund the vehicle they deal drugs out of every single evening.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GB News in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called custom removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We have got GB News contributor Will Kingston, Tory MP for Tatton, Esther McVeigh and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Esther, I'm going to come to you first as our resident politician here. Do you think this is a good thing to be banning people on the motability scheme from getting brand new sports cars?
Well, yes, I agree that should stop. I think that's wrong. However, I do think this is very much a bit of window dressing, because how do you get a motability car? It's if you get the higher rate of mobility for the personal independence payment. Now, that isn't going down. The bill is going to remain the same. And in fact, those on the higher rate have doubled more or less from 2019 to now. So that isn't what you need to stop. And you've got Rachel Reeves now saying we're going to put £15 billion more into benefits. So there'll be loads of cars on the road. They might not be BMWs, they'll be every other ones, but we're still paying more. So this is a nonsense, this bit.
So actually, whilst if you do have severe constipation, which I'm not accusing you of, you won't be able to get a brand new Audi. You probably could still settle for a Fiat.
Well, you could accuse me of failing to thrive. I could be the 11th person to be on that list, but that's a separate conversation. Look, I don't think you're going to get any argument across this panel. I don't think Jonathan would argue that BMWs or Merc should be on this list. Famous last words. But we have to ask, is this ideology or incompetence? Has some Johnny Pencil pusher somewhere just not got this policy right? Or is there an ideology that goes across this government and across the Conservatives in the past government that says if you're on benefits, you should be able to live a comfortable life in the same way that people who work really hard can live? And my fear is that there are too many people in government who think that a pension or who think that government assistance basically means you should be able to live in the same way as someone who is working their backside off. And that's why you have people who are unemployed driving Mercedes.
What would you say to that then? Do you think it's cruel that someone is now going to be deprived of Merc?
I don't think it's cruel. I think that you have to look at what this policy actually is, that it's allowed hundreds of thousands of people to get around, which is the whole point of a personal independence payments. It doesn't cost the taxpayer any extra if people buy a BMW compared to any other car, because it's they're just swapping that benefit for the car and they're paying the difference themselves. So if they're entitled to that benefit, there's no reason why they can't buy different cars. And also it's actually been great for the UK car industry, because it's allowed those car manufacturers to sell cars that otherwise wouldn't have been able to sell because people wouldn't have bought them.
We'll just have them buy British cars?
Well, that is what the government's doing. And, I think that there are legitimate arguments to make about how the government can better support the UK car industry. And I think it's reasonable to say that there should be a focus on UK-made cars.
Your concern with this, I think, is the fact that we've still got too many people fraudulently.
And we've got too many people on it. So what started as a good scheme, we get that. It started off to help people who had disabilities, had mobility issues, but now it has gone way too big. It has gone way too far. And the motability scheme, I actually started a National Audit Office investigation into it because it was paying its CEO £1 million. It was sitting on £2.4 billion worth of assets. It gets a AAA rated money from government, £77 a week, higher rate is which why it pays for it. But now, because it has doubled in the last couple of years, predominantly since lockdown and since Labour got in, it's absolutely gone off the Richter chart. That is the problem. So we need to stop people getting this benefit, and you also need a thorough investigation into the motability scheme, full stop.
But the root cause is this victimhood mentality that cuts across the whole pension program, which says that failure to thrive or mild constipation somehow means that you can't work. And that's just not the case.
No, because you get PIP whether you work or not. This is giving you an assistance to get around because you've got a disability. But yes, it needs to be cut.
I'm talking about a broader mentality that says the government should help you or give you money for the minest of inconvenience, when in the past, the government helped when you literally had no other recourse.
And
that is why this country is going
I think there are 20 people who receive this payment who have constipation, and I would almost guarantee that is not the primary reason why they're receiving it.
Most of them are things like anxiety. Can I just say? I mean, there's thousands. And by the way, if you are signed on as a kid for a PIP payment with anxiety, you will then have your driving lessons essentially paid for by the motor.
I think you'll find it's 1.8 million people who are on higher rate mobility, and the psychiatric disorders which you're talking about has actually shot up, particularly since 2019. That is wrong. That needs to be taken under control. But I'm afraid Rachel Reeves isn't going to do that because she's putting £15 billion more into
so we have
benefits.
We have a mental health crisis in this country, and I don't think the answer
they don't need a car.
I don't think the answer to it is to reduce the benefits to people who have these chronic mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Because government after government says we need to invest more in mental health, and now we have this kind of argument coming the other way. They're saying we need less money for it.
Do you know how to fill in your PIP form? And actually what it asks you, whether you can plan a journey, and then the next bit is how mobile you are, and people have abused that. You can go online, you can find ways to fill it in, other people can help you, and that's what people are doing. They are running rings around the system, which needs to be
It's a tiny minority of people who might be playing the system. Look, in any system of welfare, you will have people who are being fraudulent, who are fraudulently claiming a benefit they're not entitled to. But I think it's an outlier. It's not anywhere near a majority of people.
Doubling the number since 2019, that's more.
There are a lot of people who become sick as a
That's a couple of people play in the system, isn't it?
Well, yeah, go on, Will.
I think we have misunderstood severe mental health conditions with just like difficulty in your life. That is the fundamental problem in this society at the moment, that we have a lack of resilience, which is now basically, because of a victim culture, called a mental health problem. And unfortunately, like, until that changes, we're just going to be spending more and more money for basically people having a tough life.
But Will, it costs the NHS so much money already, because people do have chronic mental health issues, whether you agree with it or not, and that is costing us so much money as a country. And actually, if you do help people in any way that we can,
a lot of the time this is self-diagnosed over the phone. You don't even need to actually see a doctor or a psychiatrist before they give you this benefit.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most on-the-nose examples of the breakdown, I would argue, of the social contract in Britain. As you've rightly said now a couple of times, Esther, it looks as though the welfare state is going to be boosted by an extra 15 billion quid that we haven't got tomorrow, so we look forward to that, don't we? But people out there, now, people say to me all the time, so my mates were saying this to me, you know, they've worked their backsides off, they've managed to get themselves like a 2 up, 2 down somewhere probably near you, or around the Cheshire area or whatever, you know, they're not living in lavish luxury, they are scrimping and saving to get themselves a car. And all of a sudden, there's a couple of people who they know don't really seem to work, who live down the end of their road, and all of a sudden, there's a brand new BMW on their driveway.
Yeah.
We're paying for that.
And this is the unfairness that people are saying, well, what is the point of me working however many hours a day, getting up early in the morning, when I don't need to, because next door, they look like they're having a better lifestyle. By the way, they can change this car every 3 years. Anybody else would be keeping their car for a lot longer. It's also now the biggest in second-hand cars. So actually, there's a bit of a scam going in the whole motor industry, who are very happy to have these mobility cars going into the second-hand car market.
But once again,
well.
it's not taxpayers who are paying for these cars.
Of course, because they're paying for the benefits.
People are getting the benefits anyway. If they exchange it for a car with their own money, that's their money, not ours.
Shouldn't be. And it's enticing people to say that I need a car when
Esther,
they don't need to. It shouldn't have doubled since 2019.
The idea that people can live a life of Riley on benefits is a myth that has been debunked time and time again for decades.
No, I don't think you
myth.
understand this benefit. You get this benefit whether you're in work or not. So you get it extra on top.
Do you think that people are living the life of Riley on benefits?
No, but in many cases people can live just as easily on benefits as people working hard actually on working in a job. This is symbolic of a broader problem, that you can live just as easily on benefits as many people on the minimum wage. That is not right.
All right, OK. Well, look, lively start there. We have got a lot more coming your way, including... I'm going to play you a clip later on that I think will be, by far and away, the most ludicrous thing that you've seen today. And that really is saying something. But before that, I can get going...